Boys! Hello again. So I made an effort today to go down to the Royal Courts of Justice to have a peek at what was going on down there. I didn't know exactly what time the case was starting, so I made it down there for about 10:30. Found out that the court case was due to start at 2, so I thought, alright, fair enough. At least I didn't miss it. And then I went on a little adventure through the Royal Courts of Justice, continuing the hunt for the elusive Queen's Bench, which of course doesn't exist as a Queen's Bench. But I did find the County Court for Central London, I think it was, and that was a magical journey to get to that building. There's no, that I can see, the public access lifts are out of service. The stairs that go up there require a key pass to get through the door. It's not well signposted. And the only way I got in there was the help of a kind man who actually assisted me to get up there. And once I got up there, I did what I needed to do and got the information that I wanted to do from the desks. I managed to let myself out, and to let yourself out, you have to go out through a locked door down, and it just literally go down the stairs. You come out the arse end of a pile of rubbish. So basically, that would be the way in, and it's really, really funny just to see that, you know, the County Court for Central London, it couldn't be more reclusive. Couldn't be any more hidden. Couldn't be any more hated, in my opinion. To the pomp and majesty of the Royal Courts of Justice building that everyone sees from the street, and it's amazing to see the County Court business. It's done in like a piece of shit pub. Always look for the piece of shit public buildings. You know when you're there, the toilets are terrible, and the building is cheap. The staff look like the most unhappy people on the planet. That's when you know you're in the highest court of the land. And every other court that you go to is a court for private business. Hence, they can afford to spend lavishly on extravagant courtrooms, extravagant furniture. You know, lavish mosaics on the floor. You know, it's a real con in relation to the what do they call it, propaganda of justice versus the real justice. It's quite amusing when you realise what's going on and you can see what's true and what's false. But not to say that the whole society is a pile of crap, but you know, it's quite embarrassing the way that they hide the highest court in the land. It's a private nuisance for the legals, and it's a public obscurity in terms of getting access to it, which is quite funny. That's all part of the journey of getting on the right path to getting the law that will actually give you the justice that you know in your heart you will eventually receive. But less about that. That was a nice little adventure anyway. But less about that. Let's talk about these lovely people. Now, I did go there, the courtroom, for 2 o'clock, and the courtroom was they warned me that it was fully reserved for media only. And the reason I talk about the buildings and going around and looking at the various areas, the Thomas More building, and also the Queen's building. Now, the Queen's building, opened by Her Majesty the Queen, is what I previously thought may be the Queen's Bench area, but it's not. It's the family division of the High Court. So the Queen has opened up the building to allow a family court to exist as a I'll only put it in as a private. It's a publicly open building for very much private business that's going on in there, and the way that they obviously can muster out the public in their hearings is to say, sorry, this courthouse is fully reserved for the media. You know, the access to the public is second. First media, then public, and I brought that up with the lady on the front desk. And as long as you get in there before media, I mean, they'll be very hard pushed to kick you out. But the way that they like it to be is that their media moguls, their little media machine, will always get priority over the public. And they'll I mean, it may not be true, but they'll always give you that line when you go into these buildings. So apparently, one of the family members of the guards, if you like, Chris Guard and his son, Charlie Guard, one of the family members wasn't even able to get into the courtroom at the time. And at this picture here, lo and behold, in the background, if you recall, our lovely friend Richard Gordon, Queen's Counsel. And the other chap who I was interested about was the Rothschild. Boom. Rothschild head. And the Queen Counsel guy, Richard Gordon. And we'll go through. Basically, there was a live feed on Facebook. I haven't had access to that. I haven't seen it. But this person, I don't know how they got in there. Was it Joshua Rosenberg? They did tweet updates, which is quite nice, actually. So, forgive me, but I do want to go through this. So, if this is going to make you feel tedious, then do bear with it, because the idea is that I'll go through and give my two cents again on all of the points as in which I find interesting. So this will probably be the full 15 minutes just on this, and then in part 2 I'll go over some other stuff. But I went the video, as you see the intro, I did go out live. They had people shouting outside, and it was a good example to tell my kid that, you know, going outside of buildings and shouting doesn't do anything. If you want to have something to have the force of law, you go into a nice quiet courtroom and you get it sorted out there. So, I mean, it's very passionate to see people outside shouting and cheering. And one lady I spoke to came all the way down from the north of England to support this very emotive case. So I said to her, well done. And, you know, that's obviously is an important issue here, where family court division are making up legal orders to determine if they can or can't switch off a life support machine. So anyway, let's start at the beginning then. So the court case actually started at 2:30. I was told by the security guy outside the courtroom. I was looking in the courtroom, but it was, like I said, it was full of legal mobiles, and I had my little ones with me, so I couldn't really go marching in with my kids. But it was fun just to be in the area. So the case returns to the High Court following new evidence. So they're reopening the case. Okay, the case was closed, done and dusted. The original judge who made the original ruling, because it always goes back to the original judge, even after appeal and even after European Court, it always goes back to the original judge. And so new evidence, they want to reopen the case. Charlie's mother, Connie Yates, says that there are 7 doctors, or there are doctors all over the place who are supporting them. Chris Guard and Connie Yates set up a crowdfunding page to pay for Charlie's treatment, after finding an American doctor who was willing to offer the son the therapy. That's them coming into courtroom. Charlie's parents arrive in the High Court in London for the hearing on their last attempt to have their son treated with the experimental therapy in the US. Charlie Guard court now full. That was full. Apparently, you had to queue from 12 o'clock to get even a seat. So 12. I mean, it didn't start till 2. It was delayed till 2:30. So you would have been sitting in the courtroom since the media types would have been sitting in there since 12 technically, just to be able to sit in there. Again, is that to get people in there so that the public can't sit in? I don't know. Guard case opens. Existing reporting restrictions referred to by the judge, parents' counsel. That's these guys down here, the barristers. Seek a continuation of these restrictions. So I don't know what they were, but they obviously just want things to carry on as normal. Judge says report restriction laid down by the UK Supreme Court on the 8th of June should continue. Charlie Gard's parents' counsel says that they have an application to remove him for treatment. So they're applying to this court. This is a problem. So they're applying to the court. They're saying, please, Gard's parents. Do you remember my previous video? They're talking about the Charlie Gard's parents' counsel application to remove him for treatment. So that which pertaining to being equal rights is begging, applying to remove their own kid for treatment. You see how this works? How the use of the words means that you have zero status, and you're completely relying upon this family division of the High Court to convince that judge to do it. Grant Armstrong, counsel for the parents, says their position has gained widespread support, supported by a professor in Rome. So widespread support would probably be something in relation to the public, and also support from the medical profession. Armstrong, the Rome professor, has said that he is preparing to treat Charlie. Judge, what has changed since April? What should persuade me to set aside the order? This is very true. I made in April, upheld by the Court of Appeal. So he made the order, and you remember what I said about making that order real by going to the Court of Appeals. So when you go to the Court of Appeals, they say, yeah, everything's done. They chuck it back down to the original judge. So the judge has made the order, the appeals will look at it and chuck it back down to the original judge saying, yeah, we haven't found anything wrong with it, crack on. So again, you see how it's almost nonchalantly kind of saying, what should persuade me? You have to persuade me on my high and mighty seat as judge to set aside the order I made in April. It's very true what's coming out in those. You get the kind of mentality of these people. Not that it's good or bad. I'm sure he's worked very hard to be where he is, but with a word of property, just say that's my property. All that goes fucking washing down the plug hole. Armstrong, counsel for Gard's parents. You can reopen you can reopen the case if there is new evidence. Judge, I agree. Charlie's welfare is paramount. Remember, he's talking as daddy family court. So Charlie's welfare is paramount. Nothing about mum and dad's welfare. It's Charlie's welfare as far as the state's concerned. Armstrong. I think that's the lawyer for the family. For parents, Armstrong for parents. You see, the parents. So equal. That pertains to equal rights. Armstrong for the parents. Now, why on earth would the dad or the mum not speak on their own about what is theirs? You understand? That's a very important point. If anyone is going to, if I went up to you in the street and I said to you anything to relating to your kids, you would not. No one would take that. All right. Now, in a court of law, obviously, it's a little bit of a different setting, but essentially, I don't care who's talking to me. Okay? If you're going to make decisions on what is mine, good luck. But when they change you into parents and you get represented by someone called Armstrong because you're too feeble or incompetent or just, I don't know, scared to talk to anyone about what is yours. So anyway, this is what Armstrong says. 7, recognise international specialists support the treatment. Travel is not an issue for Charlie, so it's saying you can move him, and people are supporting it. Something here. Americans, some people getting behind them. Armstrong again speaking on behalf of the parents because they're being represented in a legal matter. This treatment has been tested on human cells. That's probably something to do with the validity of the medicine and if it's safe for humans. There is evidence that the treatment improves cell recovery in an analog condition. See, technical terms here. Who the fuck knows what that means? Judge, can you reverse profound structural brain damage? Armstrong, that depends on whether it will improve muscles, permit normal breathing. Judge asks again whether the structural brain damage can be undone. Charlie says Charlie. Head is not growing. Oh, it says Charlie's head is not growing. Armstrong's parents do not accept that, so he's saying the head's not growing, so he must be brain dead. So the Armstrong parents say no, he is growing. That's not true. Armstrong. Court will hear evidence not today and consider all the features together. There's significant difference between experts, conflicting views within the medical profession.